Camilla had always been fascinated by history, but there was something about the British royal family that captured her imagination more than anything else. It wasn't just the glittering crowns or the grand palaces. It was the stories hidden behind the pomp and ceremony, the human moments that were rarely seen by the public. She had spent countless hours reading books, watching documentaries, and even visiting museums, trying to feel closer to a world that seemed both impossibly distant and deeply intriguing. Her fascination was more than just curiosity. Camilla had a sense that history wasn't only about dates and events, but about people, the choices they made, the risks they took, and the small gestures that could change everything. She often found herself imagining what it would have been like to live in those times, to witness the private moments of figures everyone else saw only in public spectacles. And now she had a chance to see something extraordinary, something that had belonged to the Queen herself. The original wedding dress preserved for decades, a silent witness to a monumental moment in history. Camilla worked at a prestigious museum, one that sometimes offered special exhibitions of royal artifacts. Most of the time, these were off limits to the general public, reserved for scholars, curators, and people with official invitations. Camilla's job gave her a foot in that rarefied world, and she had always hoped for an opportunity like this. She had heard whispers from colleagues that a private display of the Queen's wedding dress was being arranged, but she hadn't dared to hope she would be invited. Still, she found herself imagining what it would feel like to stand in front of it, to see the delicate lace, the intricate embroidery, and the elegance that had defined a moment of national celebration. Days passed slowly as Camilla tried to focus on her daily tasks at the museum. She cataloged artifacts, helped with exhibitions, and answered questions from visitors, all the while keeping an ear out for any news about the royal display. Her mind kept drifting back to the dress, picturing it in her imagination, wondering if it would live up to the awe she felt just thinking about it. She knew that it wasn't just fabric. It was history stitched together, a symbol of love, duty, and public expectation. It represented more than a wedding. It represented a nation watching, a family celebrated, and a tradition honored. Then one morning, everything changed. Camilla received an email that made her heart skip a beat. It was an official invitation to the private exhibition, addressed to her personally. The words seemed almost unreal. She read the email several times, each reading confirming that she wasn't dreaming. Her hands trembled slightly as she saved the message and took a deep breath. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for, the chance to step closer to history than she had ever imagined. The days leading up to the exhibition were filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Camilla prepared herself meticulously, choosing her outfit carefully, thinking about every detail. She wanted to show respect for the artifacts and the people who had preserved them, but she also couldn't help feeling a rush of anticipation, imagining herself in the room with the dress. She reviewed the museum's protocols, made notes, and even practiced walking quietly through the galleries in her mind, imagining the way she would approach the display case, the angle from which she would view the dress, the way light would fall on the delicate lace. When the day finally arrived, Camilla felt a sense of nervous exhilaration. She arrived at the museum early, greeted by familiar faces who shared her excitement in quiet, knowing smiles. The security was tighter than usual, a reminder of the importance of what she was about to see. The guards were tall, disciplined, and alert, their presence a silent testament to the value of the artifacts they protected. Camilla felt a thrill at the thought of standing in the same room as the Queen's wedding dress, knowing that she was part of a very small group, allowed such an experience. The exhibition room itself was breathtaking. Even before Camilla saw the dress, she was struck by the way the artifacts were arranged, the care taken to preserve each one, the way lighting highlighted every detail without being harsh. There was a quiet reverence in the air, a sense that time itself had slowed down in this space. Visitors moved carefully, almost in hushed whispers, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the history surrounding them. Camilla felt a shiver of awe as she stepped forward, her eyes scanning the room, taking in every detail, every delicate object that hinted at lives lived with elegance and duty. Finally, she saw it. The Queen's wedding dress. Camilla's breath caught in her throat. It was more beautiful than she had imagined. The fabric delicate yet perfectly preserved, the lace intricate, the embroidery telling stories of care and craftsmanship. She felt an overwhelming sense of connection, not just to the dress but to the moment it represented. She imagined the day it was worn, the excitement, the nerves, the anticipation, and the joy. The thought of standing in the room with it, of seeing it with her own eyes, made her feel as though she had stepped into history itself. Camilla moved closer, careful not to touch anything, her eyes tracing every detail. She noticed small imperfections that made the dress feel real, human, and lived in. She thought about the seamstresses who had worked on it, the hours of painstaking effort, and the love and attention poured into every stitch. She felt a profound respect for the artistry, but also a deep admiration for the woman who had worn it. Imagining her own feelings on that day, the hopes and dreams intertwined with public duty. As she stood there, Camilla's mind wandered to the royal guards stationed at each corner of the room. Their presence was imposing but not intimidating. They were there to protect, to ensure that the precious artifacts remained untouched and to maintain the sanctity of the exhibition. She admired their discipline, the way they maintained perfect posture, their eyes scanning the room with quiet vigilance. Yet there was a sense of humanity in the way they observed visitors, a subtle acknowledgement that they understood the awe and curiosity that brought people like Camilla into the room. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She wanted to study the dress closely, to absorb every detail, but she also knew she had to be careful. One wrong move could disrupt the delicate balance of security and respect. Her heart raced as she moved slowly, deliberately, taking in every fold, every stitch, every nuance of the fabric. She felt as though she was part of something larger than herself, a small thread woven into the tapestry of history. Camilla's thoughts drifted to the stories she had read about the royal family, about the weddings, the ceremonies, and the moments behind the scenes that were rarely seen by the public. She imagined the queen on her wedding day, the anticipation in her eyes, the quiet strength that carried her through the day. The dress was more than a garment. It was a symbol of a moment that had been witnessed by millions, yet also intensely personal, a private expression of joy and commitment. As she continued to study the dress, Camilla felt a surge of bold curiosity. She wanted to experience it more fully, to feel the texture of the lace under her fingertips, to connect with the history in a tangible way. She knew she had to be careful, to respect the rules, but the temptation was strong. She imagined reaching out, just to adjust a fold, to see the fabric up close, to bridge the gap between past and present. Her mind raced with the possibilities, each thought more daring than the last. Camilla's imagination ran wild with the idea of becoming part of history, even for a fleeting moment. She thought about the significance of the dress, the lives it had touched, and the way it had been preserved for generations to admire. The thought of interacting with it, even subtly, filled her with both excitement and trepidation. She felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that she was trusted to be in this room, to witness this artifact with respect and care. Every detail of the room seemed heightened in her awareness. The quiet footsteps of other visitors, the soft hum of the climate control preserving the artifacts, the faint scent of polished wood and fabric. Camilla felt as though she were stepping into a different world, one where time slowed down and every action carried significance. She moved slowly, deliberately, savoring the moment, feeling a sense of reverence mixed with the thrill of being part of something extraordinary. Her thoughts wandered to the people who had preserved the dress over the years, the curators, historians, and guards who had dedicated their lives to maintaining its condition. She felt gratitude for their meticulous care, realizing that without them this moment of awe would not be possible. Camilla also felt a sense of connection to all the visitors who had stood in this room before her, each one sharing a silent reverence for history and tradition. As she stood there, Camilla realized that this experience was more than just seeing a dress. It was about understanding the lives behind it, the human stories, and the courage it took to live publicly under intense scrutiny. She felt a deep admiration for the queen, for the strength and grace required to navigate a world of expectation and tradition. The dress symbolized not just a wedding, but resilience, dignity, and the continuity of history. The anticipation, the awe, and the subtle tension in the room created a sense of magic. Camilla felt her heart swell with a mix of emotions: excitement, respect, curiosity, and a touch of nervous daring. She knew this was a moment she would carry with her forever, a memory etched into her mind as vividly as the intricate patterns on the dress itself. She felt part of something timeless, a witness to history preserved and celebrated with care. As the first part of her journey came to an end, Camilla took a deep breath, savoring the experience. She knew that what lay ahead would be even more extraordinary, that the story of her encounter with the dress was just beginning. With careful steps and a heart full of wonder, she prepared to move closer, to engage with history in a way that would test her courage, curiosity, and Rever Camilla stepped into the exhibition room, and the first thing that struck her was the quiet intensity of the space. Every visitor seemed to move with a sense of reverence, as though the very air carried the weight of history. She noticed the soft lighting that highlighted the intricate details of each artifact, yet it was gentle enough not to damage the delicate fabrics and papers on display. There was a sense of anticipation in the room, almost like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the moment when history would speak to them directly. As she walked further in, she felt the presence of the royal guards even more strongly. They were immaculately dressed in their ceremonial uniforms, standing perfectly still with their eyes scanning the room. Their discipline was impressive, yet there was an almost imperceptible softness in the way they observed the visitors. Camilla realized that these guards were not just there to protect the artifacts. They were guardians of memory, keeping the connection between past and present alive. Her heart raced as she approached the display that contained the Queen's wedding dress. Even from a distance, she could see the fabric's delicate sheen, the lace patterns forming intricate designs that seemed almost alive. Camilla felt a wave of awe wash over her, and for a moment she simply stood there, absorbing the scene. The dress was more than a piece of clothing. It was a piece of history, carrying with it stories of joy, expectation, and the pressure of public attention. Camilla moved closer, careful to follow the subtle boundaries marked by the display. She noticed the tiny details in the embroidery, the subtle patterns woven into the lace, and the way the fabric seemed to capture light and shadow in a way that made it almost ethereal. She imagined the Queen on her wedding day, moving gracefully, every step measured yet natural, the dress flowing with her movements. Camilla felt a connection to that moment, as if she could feel the energy and excitement that had filled the room decades ago. As she observed, she couldn't help but think about the effort that went into preserving the dress. The curators, historians, and guards had worked tirelessly to ensure that it remained in pristine condition. Camilla admired their dedication, realizing that history wasn't just about grand events but also about the care and attention given to the objects that carried those stories forward. She felt grateful to be in a place where such effort was respected and celebrated. While she studied the dress, Camilla noticed other visitors moving around the room, each lost in their own thoughts and reflections. Some were quietly taking notes, others were whispering to companions, and a few were simply standing in silence, letting the history speak to them. Camilla felt a sense of camaraderie with these strangers, united by a shared fascination and respect for the past. There was a sense of community in the room, even though everyone was focused on their personal experience. Her curiosity grew stronger as she observed the finer details. She leaned slightly forward, wanting to see the stitching up close, the tiny pearls sewn into the fabric, the way the lace seemed to form a pattern that told a story of its own. Camilla's mind wandered to the seamstresses and designers who had created the dress, imagining their skill, patience, and dedication. She thought about the countless hours spent ensuring every detail was perfect, the pressure to meet the expectations of royalty, and the pride they must have felt in contributing to a historic moment. As she continued to study the dress, Camilla felt a sudden impulse. She wanted to experience it more directly, to connect with the history in a tangible way. Her hand twitched slightly, the thought of touching the delicate fabric both thrilling and terrifying. She knew the rules were strict, that even the smallest contact could be seen as a violation. Yet her admiration for the craftsmanship made her momentarily forget the boundaries. She imagined herself gently adjusting a fold or brushing away an invisible speck of dust, a small gesture that seemed innocent but carried a sense of boldness. Just as she leaned a little closer, a voice broke the quiet reverence. A royal guard's shout rang out, sharp and commanding, startling everyone in the room. Camilla froze, her heart pounding as all eyes turned toward her. She felt a rush of embarrassment and panic, realizing that her impulsive thought had been noticed. The guard's posture was rigid, his eyes alert, yet there was a curiosity in his expression, a hint that he was assessing her intent rather than condemning her outright. Camilla took a deep breath, lowering her hand immediately. She knew she had to regain her composure, to show that her admiration was genuine and respectful. She straightened up, offering a small apologetic nod to the guard who continued to watch her closely. The room seemed to hold its breath for a moment longer, the tension palpable, and then slowly, the guard relaxed slightly, signaling that he had understood her innocent intent. The moment left Camilla shaken but also exhilarated. She realized that her curiosity and boldness had brought her to the edge of a unique experience, one that few people ever encountered. She felt a mix of relief and excitement, knowing that she had been tested in a subtle way and had passed. The encounter with the guard added a human element to the exhibition, reminding her that history was not just about objects but also about the people who interacted with them, the rules they followed, and the moments of understanding that could bridge gaps between protocol and personal experience. Camilla took a step back and allowed herself to breathe, observing the dress from a respectful distance. She noticed new details she had missed before, the way the fabric shimmered in the light, the intricate layering that created depth and texture, and the careful preservation that had kept it looking almost as it did on the wedding day. She felt a renewed sense of appreciation, understanding that her moment of impulsiveness had deepened her connection to the history rather than diminishing it. As she continued to move through the exhibition, Camilla reflected on the experience of being so close to the royal artifacts. She realized that the thrill of history was not just in seeing the objects but in feeling the human stories behind them, the decisions, the courage, and the dedication that had shaped the moments they represented. The encounter with the guard had reminded her of the delicate balance between curiosity and respect, boldness and restraint, and the importance of navigating history with both admiration and care. Throughout the exhibition, Camilla felt a heightened sense of awareness. Every step she took, every artifact she observed, carried a sense of purpose and reverence. She noticed the smallest details, from the texture of fabrics to the subtle colors preserved in paintings, and she felt a deep connection to the people who had created and preserved them. Each piece told a story, and Camilla felt privileged to witness them firsthand. She also observed the interactions between other visitors and the guards, noticing how the guards maintained authority without diminishing the visitors' experiences. There was a quiet respect in the room, a mutual understanding that history was both fragile and powerful. Camilla felt inspired by the way people could engage with the past thoughtfully, appreciating the artifacts while recognizing the human effort behind their preservation. As the visit continued, Camilla found herself reflecting on the broader significance of the exhibition. It was not just a display of royal history, but a window into human ambition, artistry, and resilience. She thought about the generations of people who had contributed to the preservation of these artifacts, from seamstresses and curators to guards and historians. Each person had played a role in keeping history alive, and Camilla felt a profound gratitude for their dedication. Her experience in the room deepened her understanding of history as a living, breathing entity. It was not static or distant, but something that could be felt, experienced, and even touched, carefully and respectfully. Camilla realized that her curiosity, while bold, was a natural part of human engagement with the past. The key was to balance that curiosity with respect, to navigate history with both enthusiasm and mindfulness. As the exhibition drew to a close, Camilla felt a sense of fulfillment and wonder. She had not only seen the Queen's wedding dress up close, but had also experienced a moment of personal connection that made history feel alive. The encounter with the royal guard, though startling at first, had added depth to the experience, highlighting the human elements that underlie even the most rigid protocols. Camilla left the room with a heart full of admiration, a mind buzzing with reflections, and a sense of having participated in something extraordinary. The memory of that day, the sight of the dress, and the human interactions she witnessed would stay with her forever, shaping her understanding of history and inspiring her continued journey of discovery. Camilla had been standing quietly, studying the wedding dress from a respectful distance, when a sudden surge of curiosity and admiration took hold of her. The lace, the delicate embroidery, the shimmering fabric, it all seemed so alive in the soft lighting of the exhibition room. Her eyes traced every detail, and for a moment, she imagined herself stepping back in time, standing in the same room with the Queen on her wedding day. The thought was intoxicating, and her heart began to race with excitement. It was a feeling she hadn't expected. The dress was more than a historical artifact. It was a living story, a connection to a moment filled with human emotion, hope, and anticipation. Camilla felt compelled to experience it more fully, to reach out and bridge the gap between observer and history. She knew the rules, knew she wasn't supposed to touch anything, Yet the desire to connect, even in a small way, was overwhelming. Camilla took a careful step closer to the display, her hand hovering just above the fabric. She imagined lightly adjusting a fold that seemed slightly out of place, an innocent gesture driven by respect and fascination rather than mischief. Her pulse quickened as she leaned forward, her mind focusing on the texture, the pattern, the way light danced across the fabric. In that instant, time seemed to slow and the world outside the room disappeared. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke the quiet reverence. "Hey!" the royal guard shouted, startling her so much that her hand froze midair. The sound echoed through the room, drawing the attention of nearby visitors who looked up in surprise. Camilla's heart leaped, and a flush of embarrassment rushed over her. She had been caught, perhaps at the most inopportune moment, by a man whose presence had been both imposing and protective. The guard's posture was rigid, his eyes alert and focused directly on her. Camilla felt a wave of panic and guilt. She had not meant to break any rules. Her gesture was impulsive, a reflection of admiration rather than disrespect. Still, she could feel the weight of the moment, the tension in the room and the realization that her actions had disrupted the carefully maintained decorum. For a brief moment, Camilla simply froze, unsure of how to respond. Every instinct screamed at her to apologize, to explain, to show that her intentions were harmless. The room seemed to hold its breath as the guard's gaze remained unwavering. It was not anger she saw, but a measured authority, a keen assessment of her intent. The guard was trained to respond quickly, but he also seemed capable of understanding human emotion, of distinguishing between mischief and genuine admiration. Camilla took a deep breath, lowering her hand and straightening her posture. She gave the guard a small, apologetic nod, hoping it would convey her respect and sincere admiration for the artifact. The guard's eyes flickered briefly as if acknowledging her gesture, and then he relaxed slightly, though he remained vigilant. The moment of tension began to ease, replaced by a quiet understanding that this had been an innocent lapse, a human response to an extraordinary piece of history. Even as her heart continued to pound, Camilla felt a surge of exhilaration. She had stood on the edge of something extraordinary, testing the boundaries of protocol and curiosity. The guard's reaction had added a layer of reality to the experience, reminding her that history is not just observed from a distance, but interacted with, sometimes in small, impulsive ways. The human element, the unexpected response, made the moment feel alive, more personal and more memorable. The visitors around her had resumed their quiet observation, some exchanging subtle glances and smiles, others returning to the displays. Camilla felt a renewed sense of connection, not only to the dress but to the people in the room, the guards and the curators who had preserved this piece of history. She realized that her experience had become part of a larger story, one that included her curiosity, the guards' vigilance, and the collective reverence of all present. She took a step back, giving herself space to reflect. Camilla felt a mixture of relief, excitement, and deep respect. She understood that her bold gesture, though impulsive, had highlighted the delicate balance between admiration and protocol. History, she realized, was not just about artifacts. It was about human interactions, the choices made in the moment, and the emotions that connected people across time. Camilla allowed her gaze to linger on the dress once more. She observed the tiny pearls sewn into the lace, the intricate patterns that seemed almost like whispers from the past. She thought about the seamstresses who had spent countless hours perfecting every detail, the designers who had envisioned the elegance, and the queen herself, who had carried the dress with grace and poise. Each element told a story, and Camilla felt privileged to witness it firsthand. Her thoughts wandered to the guard who had called out to her. There was a surprising humanity in his reaction. He had maintained his authority while recognizing her genuine admiration. It was a small act, yet it left a lasting impression on her. Camilla realized that history was experienced not only through objects, but also through people, their actions, decisions, and understanding. The guard had become part of her story, an unexpected participant in her journey of discovery. Camilla continued to explore the exhibition, her perspective now enriched by the experience. She moved slowly, appreciating the artifacts with a new awareness. Every detail, from the texture of fabrics to the careful arrangement of displays, seemed more vibrant and meaningful. She noticed the care taken to preserve the stories behind each object, the subtle notes that spoke of past generations, and the human effort that had ensured their survival. She also paid attention to the other visitors, observing their interactions with the artifacts and the guards. There was a quiet respect, a shared understanding that history was fragile and precious. Camilla felt a sense of community, a silent bond with those who were present to witness, learn, and reflect. The exhibition was more than a display. It was a space where human curiosity, admiration, and understanding converged. As she moved to a different section, Camilla reflected on the boldness that had led to her moment with the dress. She realized that courage could take many forms, from grand gestures to small impulsive acts driven by admiration and respect. The experience had taught her that engaging with history required not just observation, but also empathy, understanding, and a willingness to connect, even within the constraints of protocol. Camilla's attention returned to the Queen's wedding dress, and she allowed herself to linger again. She imagined the excitement of the wedding day, the nervous anticipation, the joy, and the pride. The dress symbolized not only a personal milestone but also a moment of national significance. Camilla felt a profound connection to that history, a sense that she was part of a chain of admiration and respect that had spanned decades. The guards continued to watch quietly, their presence both reassuring and authoritative. Camilla understood that their role was crucial, not just in protecting the artifacts but in maintaining the integrity of the experience. She admired their discipline, their keen awareness, and the subtle ways they managed interactions with visitors. Their professionalism added depth to the exhibition, reminding her that history required both admiration and careful stewardship. Camilla felt a deep sense of gratitude as she continued her exploration. The bold gesture, the guard's unexpected yell, and the subsequent understanding had become an integral part of her experience. It had added layers of emotion, tension, and connection that she would remember forever. She realized that history was not static. It was alive in the interactions, reactions, and shared moments of those who engaged with it. She moved through the exhibition with renewed energy, taking time to study each artifact, imagining the people behind them, and appreciating the stories they carried. Camilla felt a sense of responsibility, knowing that witnessing history was a privilege that required respect, care, and thoughtful engagement. She reflected on how small actions, like her gesture, could evoke strong responses, create memorable moments, and deepen the connection between past and present. As the visit continued, Camilla's excitement was tempered by a profound respect for the artifacts and the people who protected them. She understood that her admiration was part of a larger story, one that included the guards, curators, historians, and countless others who had contributed to preserving history. The experience had transformed her curiosity into a meaningful engagement, enriching her understanding and appreciation. By the time she prepared to leave the exhibition room, Camilla felt a mixture of fulfillment and anticipation. She had experienced a moment of boldness, a test of curiosity and respect, and had come away with a deeper understanding of history and human interaction. The Queen's wedding dress had become more than an artifact. It was a symbol of connection, admiration, and the delicate balance between protocol and personal engagement. Camilla stepped out of the exhibition with her heart full, her mind buzzing with reflections, and her spirit inspired by the human stories behind the artifacts. The memory of the dress, the bold gesture, and the guard's unexpected reaction would remain with her forever, shaping the way she viewed history, curiosity, and the extraordinary moments that arise when human admiration meets timeless elegance. After the incident with the royal guard, Camilla felt a mixture of relief and lingering excitement. Her heart was still racing, and she could feel the flush of adrenaline on her cheeks, but she also felt a profound sense of gratitude. The experience had reminded her that history was not just about objects on display, but about the human stories that surrounded them, the people who preserved them, and the moments of connection that could occur unexpectedly. She took a slow, deliberate breath, trying to regain her composure. The guard had relaxed, acknowledging her sincerity, and the tension in the room had eased. Camilla realized that this small impulsive act had made the experience even more memorable. It had reminded her that history was not always distant or untouchable. Sometimes it could touch her in return, in subtle and human ways. Camilla began to move again, walking carefully around the exhibition room. She observed the other visitors, noticing how they interacted with the displays and with the guards. There was a quiet understanding between them, a shared respect for the artifacts and the stories they carried. Camilla felt a sense of community in that silence, a recognition that everyone in the room was connected by curiosity, admiration, and reverence. She returned her attention to the Queen's wedding dress, examining it with renewed focus. The lace, the embroidery, the delicate folds, it all seemed even more alive after her encounter with the guard. Camilla imagined the care and skill that had gone into creating it, the countless hours of work and attention to detail. She thought about the seamstresses, designers, and curators who had contributed to its preservation, each one playing a role in maintaining a piece of history that had touched so many lives. Camilla's thoughts drifted to the Queen herself. She imagined the anticipation and excitement of the wedding day, the nerves and the joy. The dress was more than a garment. It was a symbol of personal and national significance. Camilla felt a deep admiration for the courage and grace required to carry oneself publicly, under intense scrutiny. She realized that history was not just about events, but about the human qualities that shaped those events, the choices, emotions, and resilience that left a lasting impact. As she continued to explore the exhibition, Camilla noticed the subtle details in other artifacts. A handwritten letter carefully preserved, a delicate piece of jewelry, a photograph capturing a fleeting moment. They all told stories of human experience. Camilla felt a sense of privilege in witnessing these pieces, understanding that each one represented a connection between past and present, between individuals who had lived and the visitors who now appreciated their legacy. The experience of the bold gesture and the guard's reaction had also taught Camilla about the balance between curiosity and respect. She realized that engaging with history required mindfulness, an awareness of boundaries and a willingness to learn from every interaction. The guard's response had been a reminder that even in moments of human error or impulsiveness, understanding and empathy could prevail. Camilla felt inspired by this lesson, recognizing that history was not rigid or untouchable, but dynamic, shaped by the interactions of people across time. Camilla's attention returned to the wedding dress, and she allowed herself to linger once more. She studied the intricate patterns in the lace, the subtle variations in color, and the way the fabric caught the light. She thought about the symbolism of each element, how it represented tradition, elegance, and personal expression. The dress was a testament to the human ability to create beauty, to honor significant moments, and to leave a lasting impression on those who followed. Her thoughts also turned to the other visitors in the room. She observed their reactions, the quiet awe in their expressions, the careful gestures and the whispered conversations. Camilla felt a sense of shared experience, a recognition that everyone present was participating in a collective act of remembrance and admiration. The exhibition was more than a display. It was a space where human connection and history intertwined, where curiosity was nurtured, and where the past came alive through observation and reflection. Camilla walked slowly, taking in the exhibition as a whole. She noticed the care in the arrangement of the artifacts, the lighting that highlighted important details, and the subtle cues that guided visitors through the narrative. Each element was designed to tell a story, to create an immersive experience that allowed people to engage deeply with history. Camilla felt a sense of respect for the curators and historians who had orchestrated this environment, recognizing the thoughtfulness and dedication required to create such an impactful experience. The encounter with the guard also stayed with her. She reflected on the human side of protocol, the understanding that rules were in place for a reason, yet that there was room for empathy and discretion. The guard had demonstrated a balance of authority and humanity, ensuring the preservation of history while acknowledging her genuine admiration. Camilla realized that history was not only about preservation, but also about the people who interpreted, protected, and engaged with it. As she continued her exploration, Camilla found herself drawn to smaller, less prominent artifacts. A delicate handkerchief embroidered with care, a small photograph faded but meaningful, a simple piece of jewelry worn and treasured. They all spoke of personal stories, moments of intimacy, and human experience. Camilla felt a sense of connection to the individuals who had created and owned these items, recognizing the universality of human emotion and the enduring power of memory. The experience of being in the exhibition room had changed Camilla's perspective. She realized that history was not static or confined to textbooks. It was lived, experienced, and remembered through the people who engaged with it. Every gesture, every interaction, and every moment of reflection contributed to the ongoing narrative of human experience. Camilla felt a renewed sense of purpose, inspired to approach her work and her life with the same attention, care, and curiosity she had witnessed in the preservation of these artifacts. As the exhibition drew toward its conclusion, Camilla allowed herself to take a final, lingering look at the Queen's wedding dress. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to witness it, for the lessons learned through her bold gesture, and for the human connections that had made the experience so meaningful. The dress was more than an object. It was a symbol of courage, creativity, and the enduring power of human stories. Camilla left the room slowly, carrying with her the impressions, emotions, and reflections of the day. She felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had engaged with history in a meaningful way, and that the experience had deepened her understanding of both the artifacts and the people who protected them. The memory of the guard's unexpected response, the subtle tension, and the eventual understanding would remain with her, a reminder of the delicate balance between curiosity and respect, and the human elements that make history come alive. As she stepped out of the exhibition, Camilla reflected on the broader significance of the experience. She understood that history was not only about grand events or famous figures, but also about the small, human moments that connected people across time. The artifacts, the guards, the curators, and the visitors all played a role in creating a living history, one that could inspire, educate, and connect individuals in profound ways. Camilla's mind buzzed with reflections, stories, and images from the exhibition. She thought about the boldness that had led to her moment with the dress, the human understanding that had followed, and the lessons learned about engagement, empathy, and reverence. She felt inspired to carry these lessons into her work, her interactions, and her personal life, recognizing that every moment held the potential for connection and meaning. The exhibition had become more than a visit. It was a transformative experience that reshaped Camilla's understanding of history, human interaction, and the power of admiration. She felt a renewed commitment to approach life with curiosity, respect, and thoughtful engagement, knowing that even small gestures could leave lasting impressions, bridge gaps between people, and connect the present with the past in meaningful ways. Camilla stepped out of the exhibition room, the soft echo of footsteps and hushed voices still lingering in her mind. The memory of the Queen's wedding dress, the moment of boldness with the guard, and the awe-inspiring details of the artifacts followed her like a vivid dream. She walked slowly through the museum corridors, letting herself absorb the lingering sense of history that seemed to permeate the building. Each display she passed carried its own story, and she felt a renewed sense of appreciation for the painstaking care that went into preserving these moments of human experience. Her mind replayed the encounter with the guard. What had started as a brief moment of impulsive curiosity had transformed into something much deeper. The guard's unexpected reaction, sharp at first but softened by understanding, had added a human dimension to her experience. Camilla realized that history was not only in the objects but also in the people who interacted with them, and in the connections formed in unexpected ways. That brief, intense moment had reminded her that history was alive, and that her own actions, even small ones, could become part of the narrative. Camilla made her way to a quiet seating area in the museum, her thoughts still swirling. She reflected on the wedding dress itself, remembering every detail with startling clarity. The lace patterns, the delicate embroidery, the way the light caught the fabric and made it almost shimmer. She thought about the seamstresses, the designers, and everyone who had contributed to the dress's creation, imagining the hours of dedication, skill, and care that went into every stitch. She realized that each artifact, no matter how small, carried the same kind of human effort, and she felt a profound respect for those who had devoted their lives to preserving these treasures. The experience had also changed the way Camilla viewed her own curiosity. She had always been fascinated by history, but this encounter had taught her the importance of balance, between enthusiasm and respect, between boldness and mindfulness. She had learned that being deeply engaged with history could involve risk, even small risks, but that understanding and human empathy could guide those moments to meaningful outcomes. The guard's reaction had exemplified this balance, showing her that authority and kindness could coexist in a way that enhanced the experience for everyone. Camilla took out a notebook she always carried with her and began to jot down her reflections. She wrote about the dress, about the intricate details she had observed, and about the emotions it had stirred in her. She described the moment of the guard's yell, the tension in the room, and the relief and exhilaration she had felt afterward. She wrote about the subtle lessons she had learned regarding human behavior, the importance of respect, and the ways that history could be experienced in deeply personal and unexpected ways. As she wrote, Camilla thought about the other visitors in the exhibition. She remembered the quiet reverence in their movements, the whispered conversations, and the shared awe that seemed to connect everyone present. There was a sense of community in those shared moments, a recognition that history could unite people across time, space, and experience. Camilla felt grateful to have been part of that collective engagement, knowing that her own experience had been enriched by the presence of others who shared her admiration and curiosity. Her thoughts drifted to the Queen herself, imagining her on that wedding day, the nervous excitement, and the pride that came with fulfilling a public role while cherishing deeply personal moments. Camilla realized that the dress symbolized not just a wedding, but resilience, dignity, and the continuity of human stories across generations. She felt inspired by the courage and poise required to navigate such a life, and by the lasting impact that even a single moment could have on those who witnessed or interacted with it. Camilla's reflection expanded to consider the broader meaning of her experience. She thought about the importance of preserving history, not only through artifacts but also through storytelling and shared experiences. Every visitor who engaged with the exhibition added their own perspective and emotion, creating a living dialogue with the past. Camilla felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor this process, recognizing that history was enriched by thoughtful observation, empathy, and engagement. The museum began to quiet down as the day drew to a close. Camilla found herself lingering near the entrance, reluctant to leave the atmosphere of reverence and curiosity. She watched as the last few visitors made their way out, noticing the careful attention of the guards as they ensured that everything remained in order. There was a rhythm to the museum's life, a quiet dignity in the way history was maintained and shared. Camilla felt a sense of connection to that rhythm, understanding that she was part of a continuum that honored the past while inspiring the present. As she stepped outside, the afternoon sun greeted her, casting long shadows across the museum steps. Camilla paused for a moment, taking in the familiar sights of the city around her, but her mind remained immersed in the world of history she had just experienced. She thought about the bold gesture, the guard's unexpected response, and the layers of meaning she had uncovered. It had been a day of learning, reflection, and personal growth, a reminder that human curiosity, when tempered with respect, could lead to extraordinary insights. Camilla walked slowly toward the nearby park, wanting to continue reflecting in the quiet of nature. The sounds of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the gentle movement of people enjoying the afternoon created a peaceful contrast to the intensity of the exhibition. She thought about the stories she had witnessed, the emotions she had felt, and the connections she had made, realizing that history was not confined to museums or artifacts. It lived in the hearts and minds of those who engaged with it. She found a bench under a large oak tree and sat down. Opening her notebook once again, Camilla began to sketch the dress from memory, capturing the lace patterns, the folds, and the delicate details. She wrote down her thoughts about the human stories behind the artifacts, about the courage and dedication of those who preserved history, and about the unexpected moments that added depth to her understanding. Each line and word felt like a bridge between past and present, a way to honor the experience and share it with others. As she sketched, Camilla reflected on the lessons she had learned. She thought about the importance of balancing curiosity with respect, the value of understanding human intentions, and the power of observation to deepen engagement with history. She realized that these lessons extended beyond the museum, applicable to everyday life, interactions with others, and personal growth. Camilla felt a sense of empowerment, knowing that her experience had not only enriched her understanding of history, but also her understanding of human connection. Camilla also considered how she could share her experience with others. She thought about colleagues, friends, and family who might be inspired by her story, who could learn about the subtle balance of admiration and respect, and who could appreciate the human side of history. She felt a responsibility to convey not just the facts of the artifacts but the emotions, lessons, and connections that made the experience meaningful. Time passed quietly as Camilla continued to write and sketch. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting warm golden light across the park. She closed her notebook and leaned back, letting herself absorb the peace and beauty of the moment. The experience of the exhibition had left a lasting impression, shaping the way she saw history, human interaction, and the extraordinary value of curiosity tempered with respect. As she prepared to leave the park, Camilla felt a sense of closure and fulfillment. The day had been more than a visit to a museum. It had been a journey into the human stories that history preserves, a lesson in the delicate balance between boldness and mindfulness, and an exploration of the connections that make life meaningful. She carried with her the memory of the Queen's wedding dress, the bold gesture, the guard's unexpected reaction, and the shared reverence of all who had been present. Walking home, Camilla reflected on how the experience would shape her future. She thought about her work at the museum, her interactions with colleagues and visitors, and her own approach to exploring history. She felt inspired to continue engaging with artifacts, stories, and human experiences with a renewed sense of curiosity, empathy, and respect. The day had shown her that even small, seemingly impulsive moments could leave lasting impressions, deepen understanding, and create connections that transcended time. Camilla arrived home, the city's evening lights casting a soft glow over the streets. She paused at her door, taking a deep breath and reflecting on the journey of the day. The exhibition had been more than a visual experience. It had been an emotional, intellectual, and human adventure. She felt a sense of gratitude for the opportunity, for the lessons learned, and for the profound sense of connection she had experienced. Sitting at her desk, Camilla opened her notebook one last time, reviewing her sketches and notes. She smiled, recognizing how much she had grown in understanding, appreciation, and perspective. The Queen's wedding dress, the bold gesture, the guard's unexpected response, and the shared reverence of the exhibition had all become part of her personal story, a reminder of the power of curiosity, respect, and human connection. Camilla knew that this experience would remain with her forever, inspiring her to continue exploring history and life with the same passion, mindfulness, and admiration that had defined this extraordinary day.